If you've been told that fake it until you make it and becoming the loudest, most gregarious person in the room is the only path to success, you haven't just been giving bad advice, you've been handed a biological death sentence for your unique genius. In fact, for a specific type of brain, forcing yourself to act like an extrovert is the fastest way to trigger a neurochemical shutdown that effectively lobotomizes your ability to do deep, high-value work. We've been raised in a society that worships the extrovert ideal, a world built for open-plan offices, endless networking mixers, and the hustle of constant self-promotion. But in the world of neuropsychology, the people we label as quiet or antisocial are often the ones carrying the most powerful, high-fidelity hardware. If you don't solve the mismatch between your deep processing architecture and the shallow-frequency social world, you won't just feel tired after a party. You are literally draining the compounding interest of your cognitive sovereignty. You are trading your high-definition polymathic potential for a blurred life of social performance. Welcome to Cognitive Blueprint. I am not here to give you a 5 tips for shy people listicle or tell you that it's okay to stay home. Today, we are going to dismantle the introvert inferiority myth under the cold, clinical light of neuroscience. I'm going to decode why your need for solitude is actually a biological requirement for your high-performance engine, and I'll prove that being an introvert is an evolutionary advantage designed for the wicked environments of the 21st century. We are moving the conversation from personality to brainstem sensitivity. The reason you felt broken or defective in social settings isn't because you lack people skills or because you're socially anxious. It's because you are operating on a high-sensitivity reticular activating system, or RAS, the gatekeeper of your brain that determines how much information from the outside world gets in. For the introverted multitasker, or the scanner brain, your RAS is like a high-performance security guard who lets everything through the door in 4K resolution. While an extrovert needs a loud environment and constant stimulation just to wake up their brain, you wake up already redlined. Here's the paradox. The extrovert game of small talk and rapid-fire networking is actually neurologically expensive for you, but cheap for them. Because you process information so deeply, a trait called sensory processing sensitivity, a single conversation at a cocktail party isn't just words, it's a non-stop analysis of micro-expressions, subtext, and potential connections to that 14th century plumbing project you're researching. Psychologists call this deep processing, but neurologically, it's a massive stimulation tax. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, burns through its metabolic battery just trying to filter the noise. You don't leave the party because you're bored or shy. You leave because the CEO has fainted and the panic interns in your amygdala are screaming for a tactical retreat. You've been blaming your character for being weak when you should have been blaming your high-fidelity sensors. To understand this, we have to look inside the black box of what I call the optimal arousal mismatch. Think of your brain like a high-end stereo system. Intelligence is the processing power, but arousal is the volume knob. Neuroscientist Hans Eysenck discovered that introverts have a higher baseline of cortical arousal. This means your internal volume is already set to 8. When you walk into a high-stimulation environment, a loud office or a crowded mall, the world turns the volume up to 11. Your system hits distortion and your cognitive capacity crashes. But there's a deeper chemical reality, the dopamine versus acetylcholine loop. Extroverts run on the dopamine VTA loop. They're motivated by external rewards, social status, and cheap dopamine hits. Introverts, however, are more sensitive to acetylcholine. This is a neurotransmitter linked to the parasympathetic nervous system. It rewards us for internal reflection, deep focus, and complex problem solving. The aha moment here is realizing that your exhaustion isn't a flaw, it's a resource allocation signal. Your brain is hardwired to seek expensive meaning over cheap stimulation. You have been trying to run a nuclear power plant on solar panel logic. The turning point is accepting that your biology doesn't want you in the crowd. It wants you in the processing chamber, where your far transfer breakthroughs actually happen. You aren't antisocial. You are a high-output integrator who needs silence to hear the music in the data. So, if we accept the reality that your introversion is actually a high-fidelity biological setting designed for deep integration, the question shifts from how do I survive this extroverted world to how do I perform a neuroarchitectural takeover? We need to stop treating your need for quiet as a recovery period and start treating it as your primary production phase. The secret to winning as an introvert isn't to work harder at being social. It's to use a process I call the Silent Fortress Protocol. This is a tactical system designed to protect your sensitive reticular activating system and prioritize the acetylcholine loop, moving you from a state of social exhaustion to high-resolution output. We are moving from being a reactive participant in an extrovert's playground to being the architect of your own cognitive empire. The first phase of the Silent Fortress Protocol begins at minute 0 of your workday with what I call the RAS Gatekeeping. Since we know your brain is like a 4K camera that captures every pixel of environmental noise, you cannot afford to start your day with digital junk food. If you check your phone or your inbox the moment you wake up, you are essentially opening the doors of your fortress to a riot. Instead, you must curate a low-stimulation buffer. For the first 60 minutes, your only job is to protect your baseline cortical arousal. By engaging in a simulation export, writing down your internal monologue or sketching out a logic map of your primary M-shaped pillar, you are clearing the attention residue before the world has a chance to add more. You are proving to your prefrontal cortex that the CEO is in control of the inputs, which instantly lowers your baseline cortisol and preserves your metabolic battery for the work that actually matters. Once the perimeter is secure, we move into the acetylcholine deep dive from minute 60 to minute 150. This is where your biological advantage truly shines. While extroverts are busy seeking external validation and dopamine spikes, you are going to leverage your sensitivity to acetylcholine. This neurotransmitter rewards you for expensive meaning. You pick your deepest, most complex leg of mastery, and you enter a state of absolute monotasking. Because your internal volume is already set to high, you don't need the noise of the crowd to feel alive. You find your stimulation in the far transfer connections between disparate data points. You're effectively performing a neuroplastic sprint where your brain is building denser neural pathways than a specialist could ever achieve. This is the moment of magic, where your scanner brain sees the music in the data, connecting the 14th century plumbing to the future of smart cities. However, as you navigate this protocol, you will encounter the hidden obstacle, what I call the minute 8 extrovert guilt. About halfway through your deep work session, or when you turn down a social invitation, your brain will stage a coup. Your ancient survival center will scream that you are being antisocial or that you're missing out on the tribal safety of the group. This is a biological trap. It's your amygdala trying to force you back into a low-fidelity dopamine loop. To bypass this, you must relabel the feeling. Do not call it loneliness or shyness. Call it cognitive preservation. Remind yourself that every hour spent in your silent fortress is worth 10 hours of shallow extroverted grind. If you can push through the itch of exclusion at minute 8, you reach the state of cerebral sovereignty, where the noise of the world fades and your focus becomes a high-powered laser. Imagine your life 30 days from now. You are no longer the person who feels drained by their own personality, haunted by the feeling that they should be louder or faster. You have become the master of the system. You wake up with a clear RAS, your prefrontal cortex is fueled by acetylcholine, and your M-shaped career is built on the deep insights that only someone with your biological hardware could produce. You've shifted your identity from defective introvert to elite integrator. You realize that your curiosity, your scanner nature, isn't a liability that makes you distracted. It is a superpower that, when shielded by a silent fortress, allows you to build a life of profound depth and strategic leverage. The self-blame ends today. You weren't meant to be a loud gear in someone else's machine. You were designed to be the bridge builder between different worlds of knowledge. To help you install this silent fortress protocol and identify your high sensitivity triggers, I've put together a resource called the Introverts Advantage Blueprint. It's a minimalist PDF that maps out the exact RAS gatekeeping scripts and acetylcholine-optimized schedules for your specific brain type. You can grab it at the link below. I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the most extroverted expectation you are officially retiring today? Let's dismantle those social simulations together. And if you're ready to see how this reclaimed energy allows you to master the most wicked career environments of the future, you need to watch our next video on the 10-minute flow launch, where we take your quiet mind and turn it into a high-output engine. Reclaim your advantage. Build the bridge. You are watching Cognitive Blueprint.